Welcome to the Counselling Tutor Podcast, the must-listen-to podcast for students of counselling and psychotherapy. Here are your hosts, Rory Lees-Oakes and Ken Kelly.
Hello and welcome to this special edition of the Counselling Tutor Podcast with me, Rory Lees-Oakes, and with me is my wingman in all things therapeutic, Mr. Ken Kelly. Are you there, Ken?
I am. I'm here and I'm playing the trumpet. Dun, 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 dun. Why? Because it is a special edition. What does a special edition mean? Well, we put our podcast out every week during United Kingdom academic term time. And we have a specific format that we follow within our podcast. But we do from time to time, generally during term breaks, when academia is not sitting, we like to put out special interest. And today is one such special interest podcast. Give us a taste, Rory.
Well, we know from you, the listener, both in our Facebook group, and if you're wondering what our Facebook group is, type Counselling Tutor into Facebook, and you'll see our group. If you just knock on the door, you'll see over 20,000 like-minded people studying the world of counselling and psychotherapy, supervisors, there's qualified colleagues, and also students like yourself, all interested in exchanging ideas and talking about assignments and criteria and all the stuff that goes on in counselling courses. And one of the things that comes up is that we know that some students struggle with dyslexia. So I spoke to a dyslexia, someone who's an expert in it from both their own experience and helping others. And I actually got our Yvonne in. I got my daughter in.
Oh, well, she's an expert, and that's exactly what you need, yeah.
And the thing is, she as you'll hear in the interview, she has effectively 3 degrees. And she's sharing not only her experience of being successfully academic, so what a great role modeling is that, but also the techniques she used and critically she uses to help others, because now she's a teacher and she works with young people who have maybe specific learning needs or dyslexia. And she works with them and she produces resources. And we have that interview in the Counselling Study Resource, our academic library. And that is going to be added to. So if you're a member of the CSR, if you're a member of the Counselling Study Resource, if you go in, you'll find it in Study Skills. Go in and you'll see it'll just expand over the months as Yvonne sends more information to pop in to help people with dyslexia, but some really good tips as we'll hear in this interview, Ken.
Let's get straight into the interview after this short message.
Take the stress out of your counselling studies and get the support of Rory and I by joining us in the Counselling Study Resource. See how Counselling Study Resource can help you. Visit counsellingtutor.com. That's counsellingtutor.com.
So I'm really pleased to welcome Yvonne Lomas, who is a teacher. She holds a master's degree in teaching. She has a first degree in information and library management, which is part of that is teaching people advanced and rapid reading skills. And also she holds a level 6 teaching qualification with a module of advanced needs. And there's something else that we need to share, isn't there, Yvonne?
Yes, there is. Are you going to share it or do you want me to share it?
Do you need to share it?
Yes, so I'm Rory's daughter, and he's asked me to come on and do some tips and talk about how a learner can work around being dyslexic.
Yes, and part of your work is helping children with additional needs, and also it's the interest of yours because you're borderline dyslexic. I seem to remember before you went to university, you had a dyslexia test, and you were considered borderline, and in fact you were treated as dyslexic when you went through your studies, weren't you?
I was, yeah. So basically all the way through primary school and secondary school, I found it quite challenging to get work completed. Reading books was an absolute nightmare. And to be honest with you, to this day, it's still a bit of a nightmare for me because I read from the top of the page to the bottom like everybody does. But by the time I get to the bottom of the page, I sometimes forget what's been said at the top. So that was quite a challenge at secondary school, especially when I was studying for my GCSEs. And then really the door opened for me when I got to college, because while I was doing the qualifications, and it was actually in IT, there was a written element, and I found it quite challenging to get that completed. Went to student services, and they actually said, could you be dyslexic? Went for the assessment, but they turned around and said that because I'd cope with it so well, and you usually find that with people with dyslexia who were adults who haven't had it picked up, because you learn coping strategies throughout the years. Then when you do get to be assessed during adulthood, it may not always come out that you're dyslexic. It may come out that you're borderline like myself. But I was still eligible for help and support during my undergraduate degree, which really, really did help me, and again opened quite a few doors for me. So it is something that I'm really passionate about, and it is something that I want to share with everybody and try and give some tips to people and try and help people as much as I can, really.
Well, thank you, Yvonne. And I think you make a really important point there, that sometimes as adults, and I'm so pleased that you've inherited your father's dyslexia gene. I don't know if it is genetic, but it's really interesting that what you were saying about that when you were assessed as an adult, or at least a young adult, you developed so many coping strategies that it was quite difficult to assess if you were dyslexic, because you'd got so many workarounds. So that really leads me on to the first question, Yvonne. There'll be a lot of people listening to say, what is dyslexia? Is there a kind of a statement of dyslexia or a quote about dyslexia that could be helpful?
Yeah, so I've been having a look online, and I look at the British Dyslexia Association website quite a lot, because they've got some useful resources on there, and I found a really good quote actually. So I'll just read it out to everybody. So according to the British Dyslexia Association 2001, dyslexia is defined as a combination of abilities and difficulties which affect the learning process in one or more areas. So that's including reading, writing, language, and again, numeracy. That's probably something that some people may not be aware of, but it does affect people, and the numeracy. And then within the United Kingdom, 10% of the population are dyslexic, with 4% severely affected, and that's quite a recent statistic from the British Dyslexia Association that was published this year.
That's 2018. Yeah.
2018.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's really interesting, and we are both literally reading off the same page. Because we've got the same sheet here, haven't we? And we have. And it goes to say many people with dyslexia experience many different learning difficulties. Some with dyslexia may find it difficult to read books, text, or websites, as the words may feel jumbled up, or information read at the top of the page may be forgotten by the time the person's got to the bottom. That sounds like your experience, Yvonne. And Definitely. Some people may find it difficult with concentrating and putting pen to paper. So just want to outline there's a list, isn't there, on the paper of the kind of things that may give someone an indication that they're dyslexic.
Yeah, so short concentration span, slow at reading. Some learners that I've worked with in the past, they may read a sentence and they may miss words out. Same with copying words down. I use quite a lot of whiteboards, especially with the job that I'm doing at the moment. And it's really, really good because I can just write something down and the children can copy it. But sometimes you do find that some learners can't copy down text that's been written for them, so that will probably come under poor note taking, not being able to copy down things properly, forgetting information. So you might read, and again, this is something that is definitely what I have challenges with. So you read at the top of the page, and then by the time you get to the bottom, you forgot what the story's about or what the piece of information is about, so you have to reread it again. And then mixing up certain letters, for example, D and B, that's quite a common occurrence of somebody that may be dyslexic. It may be that, although this is a dyslexia focus, it may be somebody's not dyslexic or doesn't think that they are, but they may have difficulties with one of those. So again, although it's like a dyslexia podcast, it's well worth people who are not dyslexic listening, because there may be some tips that you might pick up.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, Yvonne, because you've produced a super duper handout, and what you've done is you've broken down the difficulties that people might have, and the tips that you would recommend. And as you say, it might be that some people just find this helpful in general. So if you're not dyslexic, don't turn off. Have a listen to this, because this is some stuff that is really good for learning in general. So if we look at we take the first one, which is reading.
Yeah.
What are the challenges that someone might have who's dyslexic, who's reading?
So again, getting the D's and B's mixed up, getting certain words muddled up. Again, going back to the issue with reading a page of text and then they're not remembering or absorbing what's being said. So that's a few of the common elements that somebody with dyslexia may face.
Yeah, you've also put on your list the information doesn't go in, and you may have to read information over again. So that's a challenge. But so what tips have you got on reading? What tips?
So basically, you can use a review sheet. Now I have got a copy of this, and I will email it over to you, Dad. But it's basically like an A4 sheet, and I used this method when I was doing quite a lot of studying for my undergrad degree. So basically, you read a paragraph of text, and then on this piece of paper, you're just basically summarising or putting some key words in about what that paragraph's about. There may be a good quote that you can write down on this review sheet, and then when you come to the end of the page, you look at your review sheet and you look at all the information that you've written down, and that's with the hope of you not having to read all the information on the piece in the book again. So that's one method that you could use. Audio books, and especially with YouTube being widely available now, it's a fantastic resource. And also audio books as well. So if there's a book in a university library or a college library, it may be worth just asking the lady behind the counter or the man behind the counter if they have got it in an audio version, because sometimes that piece of information may go in a little bit better than just reading it from a book. And then the text-to-speech software. So I think some versions of Microsoft Word have started doing this now, and I think Keynotes has this option. That's always a good tool to use. So basically, if you're downloading something from the internet, you just put it in your Microsoft Word, you highlight the text, you press the button, there's like a special text-to-speech or speech-to-text button, and it will read the information for you. But again, that's certain versions of Word. That's not every version of Word. Yeah,
and certainly you can buy bespoke software like Dragon, can't you? That you use a headset like we're wearing today, and you can speak on a microphone, you speak into it and it'll correct you. So audio books, podcasts, he says, because we do a podcast, a review sheet, an information sheet, summarise the information. So what about writing? You've put in not knowing how to start a piece of writing and never knowing what to say in a piece of writing.
Yeah, so that's another challenge that I faced in the past, where you get given an assignment title, or if it's a portfolio of work that you've got to put together, and I spend a good couple of hours just looking at the assignment brief, wondering how I'm actually going to start it. And I'm sure a lot of people have been in that situation in the past. So I use a mind map piece of software that's actually online. It's free. Again, I'll put the link to that at the bottom of this audio piece.
Yeah.
And basically, you just log on and create your mind map, and you can put keywords and link pieces of information to it. You can save it online as well. So the good thing about it is you might spend 10-15 minutes doing a certain piece of your assignment, and you can have a cup of tea and then go back to it again, and then your mind's a little bit fresher. So that's really, really good. And also as well, PowerPoint, I found PowerPoint really, really useful. You use a lot of bullet points with certain keywords, and also at the bottom you've got like a facility where you can actually write your notes. So when you're presenting your presentation, you can look, rather than having your cue cards in front of you, you can actually look at the bottom of the computer screen, and it'll have your notes, and it's a little bit easier for you to kind of relay that information. And again, if you're doing assignments, you can always use it for that purpose as well.
Yeah. So some really good tips there, and we're going to put the links to all these resources that Yvonne's mentioned. We're going to put them in the show notes, and we're also going to put them in the handout, so you can click that link and go and have a look at them. Now, you've also written down format, work, and grammar. And you say looking over work but never being able to spot mistakes. That sounds very familiar. as people who write to me on a regular basis will tell me. And missing vital pieces of information, not a problem that I particularly have, but the first one is. So what's the key there for format of work and grammar? What would you say?
If I'm writing, like for my masters, it was 20,000 words. So you can imagine that was quite a challenge for me to read over it. So what I did is I asked somebody else to read paragraphs of what I'd written, and if there was any words that I'd spelt wrong, or it was a different type of word that I needed to put in that assignment, I got that support. So it could be anybody. My husband, for example, he was reading parts of the assignment and saying, oh, well, rather than saying is, you could say was. So it's always good to have somebody. It doesn't have to be a tutor. It could be somebody in the family. If you've got an older son or daughter, they could have a look through that as well. You wouldn't be
asking your dad to do that, though, would you?
And then the second tip would be build a checklist with all the information you need, so tick off when needed. So when you get your assignment, maybe having a word with your tutor and just seeing if there's any key theories or key elements of counselling that needs to be included in your assignment.
Yeah.
Getting those written down, and then as you're going through your assignment and writing it, you can think, well, I'm not too up on counselling, so I do apologise, but there may be a certain theorist that you've got to quote and mention about. So it's a big tick if you've put that in your assignment. So doing basically an assignment plan.
Yeah.
So that's really useful.
So that's a good one. And also we do have checklists in the CSI and the Counselling Study Resource that you can have a look at. You know, we call them cheat lists. They're not really cheating, but they're lists of things that within the theory you should have in your assignment. Now you go on to talk about handwriting, note-taking and copying work. Mm-hmm. And you go on to say that some people may have difficulty handwriting or holding a pen incorrectly and not being able to read your own writing. This sounds so familiar.
Oh, that's exactly like me as well. I don't think I was able to hold a pen till I was at secondary school properly, because I used to hold mine like a chisel. So that's, again, both of us, I suppose, we've had that experience of not being able to read our own writing. And I know with learners that I've worked with in the past, they've done a piece of work for me and they've really put a lot of effort into it. And when I've gone to market, it's been a little bit difficult to read. So the things that I've suggested, because I find especially when I'm holding a pen or a pencil, my middle finger, it gets quite sore. But you can get these pen grips now. But I think in the 80s, when I was at primary school, I don't think there was anything like that available. And you can pick them up for a couple of pounds from eBay. So they're worth having a look at. And also as well, I'm a bit of a stationery geek, to be quite honest with you. So when I've looked around in Tesco's and Paper Chase and various different stationery outlets, they do all these snazzy pens now with like a gel kind of grip round. So they're really, really good pens to use. And I know it sounds really strange in saying it maybe there's just a certain make of pen that suits you. And with some of the children I'm working with at the moment, and I know when there's certain pens that they like using, and that does them really, really well. So again, looking at the type of pen that you use, also as well, especially when you're doing your notes and you're going into your lectures or your seminars, seeing if you can borrow a computer. Maybe worth going to student services and just saying, look, I'm really struggling with the writing element of things, and seeing if the college or university can lend you anything, even if it's just for the hour lecture or seminar, and then you can email your notes, and then you've got them at hand to print off when you get home. Also as well, recording your notes, and when I got the support on my undergrad degree, I got given a dictaphone that I used to use, and that was really, really good as well, because I was able to put it at the front of the class, and then I could record everything what the lecturer was saying. But again, that's at the discretion of the lecturer, so don't just start recording. Do ask if that is okay.
Okay, so find a pen that suits you. It might be that a certain pen suits your handwriting style. Record your notes, or borrow a laptop from learner services if possible, and record your lectures with the permission of your tutor. Now we go on to spelling and vocab, misspelling words, and looking at both a correct and incorrect word and thinking they are spelt presumably the same. It's not a problem I have. Yes, it is. And so what would your tips? I'm learning so much here, Yvonne. What would your tips for me be?
I suppose with any course or industry, these key, I suppose it's like a glossary that you get at the back of the book. These keywords that I suppose are used throughout the course. So what I would do is maybe speak to your tutor if you're having a few spelling differences, and just see if they can recommend like a word list. Again, I've used it throughout my 9.5 years of being in education with the learners that I've worked with, and they really, really do benefit from it. So at least if you've got like a vocab list, you're able to kind of pick out those words that you need to use on a frequent basis. Also as well, if you're using Microsoft Word, the autocorrect feature in your word processing software, that's a really, really good one, and I rely heavily on Microsoft Word, and I do quite a lot of my work now via computer, and I suppose the majority of people do. So autocorrect is a fantastic feature.
Yep. Yeah. So I think that's a really interesting one. Build up a vocabulary list. So, if you're a counselling student, introjected values, conditions of worth, organismic self. I've seen some very creative writing of organismic self. All I will say is always use the spell check if you're using organismic self, or you can have a word that you don't really intend to have. You go on then to talk about organising work. You said that sometimes for people who are dyslexic, notes information may be chaotic, and storing notes maybe not be able to find them. And I speak from my own frame of reference here. Unless my desk is a complete tip, and unless it's there, I can't see it. And if I put it away somewhere, I just cannot remember where I put it. Is that unusual for a dyslexic, or sort of par for the course?
I think it's down to individuals. Personally, I'm the same as you. I live in an office of chaos from time to time. I know my old office at the previous place that I worked just before the summer holidays, my desk was always a mess, and I'm sure my colleagues who shared an office with me can relate to that. So, but I think it is quite common. It is quite common, and maybe one of the signs of dyslexia. But you can make things really, really easy for yourself. And I found in the past, it's about organising yourself a little bit more than maybe compared to somebody that's not got dyslexia. So, for example, making sure you've got ring binders, making sure if you're using your laptop heavily, especially in lectures and on your college courses, making sure you've got a desktop file for everything so you can just whiz your Word documents in certain subject areas. Again, storing notes if there's handouts that your lecturer gives you, and especially when I was doing my teacher training course, there was loads of handouts. I used to do about a 3-hour lecture every Wednesday, and by the end of it, my bag was heavier by the week with all the handouts, which was fantastic. But I made sure I had a ring binder, dividers, which were clearly marked, and I had a certain cupboard within the house where I kept all these resources. Because when I was growing up, I think they were all over. I think if you can remember rightly, Dad, they were all over the bedroom, and my mum would slip on them all. And so it's about kind of being organised more than anything else. And I think it's one of them, especially if you're just coming into education, if you've had a long break or it's your first time in education. I suppose it's finding ways in which you can work and having your own kind of routine. It's worth having a look at, and you can get some fantastic folders now and notepads and dividers. So there's loads of choices to choose from, and they're quite reasonable prices. I've not got shares in Paper Chase. Don't worry, I'm just.
Yes, well, I have to say this in case iTunes listening. Other supermarkets and purveyors of stationery are available. So the final one, and this I know this frightens a lot of people, and certainly as a lecturer, I know it's something that scared a lot of my students, and that's oral and speaking skills. As part of many courses, a oral presentation is usually asked for, and you've talked about worrying about making a contribution in class, e.g. oral presentations. And I've seen that, with my students. So you've put, I think, 3 very powerful tips here, Yvonne. So what's the first one?
Well, I think the first one is making sure you rehearse your presentation. So if you've done a slide presentation on PowerPoint, making sure that you know what's on each slide. If there's somebody at home, it doesn't have to be a teacher or a lecturer that you're rehearsing to. It could be your husband, your daughter, your son, mum, dad. So just making sure that you're confident with what you're saying. You know what's on each slide. The second point is, I think we've covered that really, is using PowerPoint. And I think the majority of people do use PowerPoint for their presentations now. It's a fantastic resource. Again, it's got the notes section at the bottom, so you can write all your notes down, and they've got some really, really snazzy backgrounds that you can use. And then the third point would be to use cue cards when presenting to help you remember key points. So if there's certain elements of your presentation where you just keep forgetting, just write it down on a cue card, and when you're presenting your information, you can just look at them, and it's a bit of a memory jogger. So they're the three main ones that I'd suggest when you're delivering a presentation or doing some public speaking. Yeah,
and cue cards are effectively, if people are thinking what cue cards are, they're effectively like a postcard. They're basically a 6x4 inch piece of card, like you'd have your photograph prints on, and you write on, and you just turn them over and you just read off them. And I know a lot of people do that. In fact, if you look at, I was looking at the President of the United States giving a speech the other day, and he had the electronic cue cards. They were like 2 projectors either side of him, which he could see. So I think that's really useful, and I'd like to thank you, because I know that your dyslexia, you never stood in the way of your dreams, and you hold effectively 3 degrees, and you're employed in education. So I think that is a really great story. And
thank you.
It's great. And I think we should go and have a celebratory cup of tea. Should we have a cup of tea?
I'll have an Earl Grey.
Should we say ta to the audience before we go?
Oh, well, thank you so much for listening, and I hope that the information that I've passed on to you is of some help to you. And good luck as well. Good luck with your courses, and hopefully you'll invite me back in the future, Dad.
I'm sure I will. So get the kettle on. See you later.
See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you to Rory and Yvonne for taking the time to share that information. Absolutely remarkable. I think it's probably well known, Rory, that both yourself and myself are openly dyslexic, so we understand those struggles, but it's just really interesting hearing it from an expert's point of view. As Rory mentioned going into this special edition podcast, if you are a member of the Counselling Study Resource, there is a ton of information that we've put in a whole section. It's called Study Help, and under Study Help, you can click on the Working with Dyslexia, Understanding Dyslexia. The interview is there. You can see a video of that, so you can see Rory and his daughter. Go and have a look. It's worth going and watching, obviously, for the content that is there. But there are also some phenomenal handouts if you are a Counselling Study Resource member.
Yeah, and also if you're not dyslexic, it's still worth listening to, and I'll tell you why. Because there's loads of just study tips that help people anyway, and I've got a super duper handout to show that will be really handy for those who are dyslexic, but for those people who are not. So do listen, do download the handout, because it's going to be great help for everybody.
Well, there you go. That's the end of this special edition. Thank you for joining us on this one, and we'll catch you soon.
And as always, stay grounded and stay safe.
Take the stress out of your counselling studies and get the support of Rory and I by joining us in the Counselling Study Resource. Counselling Study Resource, or CSR for short, is the world's most comprehensive assignment guidance and study support resource for students just like you of counselling and psychotherapy. See how Counselling Study Resource can help you. Visit counsellingtutor.com. That's counsellingtutor.com.
Thank you for listening to the Counselling Tutor Podcast. Find the show notes for this episode on our website at www.counsellingtutor.com.